financier Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
Do you really think the Jeffrey Epstein files are just about lust, perversion, and bunch of aging billionaires caught in the act? If so, you are swallowed the bite they laid out for you. The real Epstein documents are not chronicle of sin. They are masterclass in how to domesticate the premium human cattle. It's a blueprint on how to control the people who rule the world by weaponizing their own dark nature. We aren't going to rehash the Wikipedia rumors fed to you by the tabloids. We are going to look inside the minds of those who considered themselves untouchable gods. Why did the world's smartest politicians, Nobel laureates, and tech titans line up to see a man who had the world's blackmail written all over him? How does the God complex work when you have everything except immorality? And most immorality, what price are you paying right now to keep this system running in total silence? My name is Lina Virwani. Welcome to Anatomy of Hidden Control. Keep watching if you are ready to admit that your world is not what you were told it was. Let's start with paradox that breaks the logic of any sane person. Among Epstein clients were the brightest minds of the planet, heads of state, scientific geniuses, financial titans, people with a manic level of caution. How did the former math teacher with no massive inheritance manage to trap them all in one big wire-tapped web? The answer is cynical. Epstein wasn't just selling forbidden pleasures. He was selling the illusion of absolute immunity. At a certain level of wealth, money stops giving you a rush. When you can buy any material objects on earth, your only difficult become the law, or rather the lack of it. Epstein created a psychological oasis where the laws, or sites, and morality, the ones for insects like us, simply caused to exist. But here is the most interesting part. Do you really think they don't know they were being filmed by hidden cameras in every bedroom? They knew, and that was part of the sick thrill. It's the illuminate form of psychological cuckolding before the system. I am so powerful that even the existence of blackmail material makes me part of an ultra-exclusive club. Blackmail wasn't a threat. Blackmail was the admission ticket. The scheme was always built on emotional lifting. Epstein never acted aggressively. He caught people at their peak of triumph of their deepest crisis. Take a Bill Clinton after his presidency, a man who ran nuclear superpower, suddenly finding himself just a regular pensioner. The sage craves that old scale. And then Jeffrey appears, offering a context where Clinton feels like an empire again, standing above humanity. Write in the comments, is it even possible to stay human when you have absolute, unchecked power? Or does everyone eventually lose their mind? Epstein surrounded his victims with a fake ring of safety. It's a classic cult pattern. You get inside, and everything around you whispers, "You are safe here. There is no outside world." But the real horror happened when guests left the island. They would return to their ministry of their bank, but a parasite was now living inside them. They knew the system had captured their true face. And now their career, their family, their legacy, they don't belong to them anymore. They belong to whoever holds the tape. Let's look to anatomy of the files themselves. What do we see? Lists of names, flight logs, endless testimonies, but if you read between the lines, a terrifying dynamic emerges. Epstein wasn't just pimp for elite. He was pathological narcissist who compensated for his own insignificance by humiliating those who stood above him. Understand one thing, Epstein hated his clients. He despised them. It gave him the illuminate, almost orgasmic pleasure to see a great scientist or prince begging for things that are too shameful to name. He collected their filth just to tell himself, look, these gods are just as animalistic as everyone else, and I am the one controlling them. Why did this network run for decades? Epstein's system worked on a principle of perfect psychological screening. They choose girls from broken families with already shattered boundaries and histories of trauma. Why? Because a victim with existing trauma is perfect material for gaslighting. When a girl tried to resist, they would softly but firmly say, nobody will believe you. Who are you? And who is this man? Look at these gifts. Look at his money. The victim's psyche would break. The girls would start recruiting other girls, turning from victims to accomplices. This is a peak of sadism. Forcing the victim's psyche would break. The girl would start recruiting other girls, turning from victims into accomplices. This is the peak of sadism, forcing the victim to do the executioner's work. And the key role was played by a woman, Ghislaine Maxwell. Her personality type is a classic psychopath in silk. She was the architect of trust. A man predator can never gain the trust that woman can, especially when she projects maternal care or sisterly understanding. Maxwell used her feminine empathy as a weapon of mass destruction. She put the victims at ease, creating the illusion that everything is under control. This is just a game. This is what I call shadow matriarchy. Look at that list being discussed in media. They show us names, but they hide the essence. They feed us dry facts to cover up the main psychological insight. This entire archive isn't blackmail on a few individuals. It's blackmail on the structure of our civilization. If the people making the laws are so easily managed by their base instinct, then who is really running this world? The people holding files. Let's move on to the Great Gaslighting. The court has released the final Epstein lists. And what happened? The world scrolled through Twitter, got outraged for 3 days, and went back to watching cat memes. This is what called information flooding. If you want to hide something, don't burn it. Put it in plain sight, but surround it with a million tons of trash. Documents are released as thousands of unorganized PDF pages with important names blacked out. The system makes sure the average person gets too tired to read. They make you feel stupid, unable to understand the details, while the real puppet masters move their assets out of harm's way. The Epstein file is an adjustable valve for releasing public anger. When social tension hits a peak, when people are ready to revolt over inflation or war, the system cracks the valve open. Look at these monsters in the elite. Attack them. The public redirects all the rage into discussing Prince Andrew's flight logs. While new laws are passed under the radar, that lock the public deeper into economic slavery. You are being used as an emotional garbage disposal. Why is no one from the top tier accused sitting in prison. This is too big to jail phenomenon. If you put even one sitting CEO or former president from that list in prison, it wouldn't just ruin their reputation. It would ruin trust in the system itself. Stock markets would crash, geopolitics would shift. The system protects them not because it loves them, but for its own survival. The average person's sage couldn't handle the truth that the institutions they trust are rotten to the core. It's easier to believe that the accomplices have already been punished. The death of Epstein himself in his cell was the perfect final for the elite. It was a signal to everyone else. Look, we erase even him, a man who knew everything and held us by the throat. If we can nullify him in federal prison, under the world's eyes, imagine what we will do to you if you open your mouth. It was an act of demonstrative terror in their own. Now, let's take off the white coats. Stop pointing fingers and being outraged by the evil elite. Let's talk about you. Why has society stayed silent for decades? Because inside every regular person lives a deep, sticky fear of power, and at the same time a secret, shameful worship of it. We hate the billionaires on Epstein lists. But if tomorrow you were offered a ticket to that island with a guarantee that no one would ever find out, how many of you would refuse? Honestly, we condemn the elite's perversions only because we lack the resources to carry them out. It's a bitter pill, but you have to swallow it. The Epstein system is just magnificent reflection of society's own secret desires, amplified by power and money. Every time you choose not to get involved or stay silent, you feed the same Hydra that, at the top of the social ladder, turns into Jeffrey Epstein. You agree to the rule, might makes right. The elite can smell your mental subservience from a mile away. They know you are venting the comments and then calm down because your rebellion is domestic. You are domesticated. We have turned a real tragedy into pop culture. We make memes. And in that moment, we lost completely. The system look at our memes and smiles. Good, they aren't angry anymore. They are entertained. The Epstein files aren't closed because they contain terrifying secrets about the past. They are closed because this network is still working right now. Instead of islands, they now use decentralized blockchain platforms and closed metaverse spaces. And the new Epsteins are all algorithms collecting blackmail on every single one of us based on our search history in our likes. You give them your shadow site every single day for free. You are already inside the system. You are its top client and its main victim at the same time. Jeffrey Epstein is dead, but his method is won. If you watch until this moment, congratulations. Your dopamine system is still alive, and you are capable of processing meanings deeper than 15-second clips for the mindless. But knowledge brings responsibility. You can no longer look at the news through the same eyes. You are now dangerous to yourself because you started to see the stitches on a stage set. If you want to keep going down this rabbit hole, if you are ready to develop an intellect that cannot be gaslit on global scale, welcome to our closed club. Subscribe to Virwani. Here, there will be no comfort lies. There will only be the cold scalpel or psychoanalysis. And before I go, answer me one question that I will define who you are. If the Epstein lists were released in full, with no redactions and all the video footage, do you think society would take to the streets to destroy the elite? Or would they just fall into a mass, realistic ecstasy, begging for the show to continue? Think about it, and I'll see you in the next investigation.